Morning, Judy.
Good morning, Victor. Nice to see you this week.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. And we've hit 9 o'clock, so we're going to start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Friday morning briefing, and thank you for joining us. And a very special welcome to our guest, George Szpiro. And you will probably have seen, and I'm sure you all know me by now, but just in case there's a few new people joining us, especially friends of George and Ava's, I'm Judy Trotter, Head of Adult Education, and thank you for joining us. George is an Israeli-Swiss author, a journalist, retired, and mathematician. He's published several books, including Numbers Rule, The Vexing Mathematics of Democracy, from Plato to the Present. I admit I've not read it. He and his wife split their time between New York, Jerusalem, and Vilnius. And George was suggested, recommended, and brought to me through Ava Burke, who many of you will remember worked at JW3 for many years. And I know still misses this, and unfortunately couldn't be with us this morning because of a long-standing appointment that couldn't be changed. So George, welcome. It's not an easy task we've given you. But what is uppermost on your mind this morning that you would like to share with us? And to everyone else, please remember to put your questions in the chat so that I can pose them afterwards. George, welcome, and over to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm in Tel Aviv. We moved from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv a few years ago. And I came to Israel 49 years ago, and I cannot remember any time as chaotic as the past year and a half. Right now, we have the hostages in Gaza. We have a war going on in Gaza. We have another war going on in the north at the border with Lebanon. There are clashes every day in the West Bank. And there's a war with Iran. Last night, Israel struck back. And then our relationships with the United States have never been as bad as they are now. We have problems with the Haredim, with the ultra-Orthodox not serving in the army, which is a political problem. We have the legal reform that the Likud wants to push through. The population is split, though we all say Yachad Nenatzeach, together we will win, but we're actually not very together. And then the big question is who's going to pay for everything? The economy, it's still doing okay, but S&P downgraded Israel, I think, last night. So there are problems all over. I've never had a time. I was here during the two intifadas, and we were worried and afraid, and there were bomb attacks. But we sort of knew how it's going to end. And now we're inundated with problems. Surprisingly, in Tel Aviv, life is back to normal. All the coffee houses are full with people. The beach, people go to the beach, to the museums, but everybody's depressed. I mean, it's always in the back of everybody's mind what's happening, and there's uncertainty. But if a tourist came to Tel Aviv now and just walked the streets, they wouldn't notice that anything was wrong. You can't get a reservation in a restaurant for the next 2 weeks if you want. So that's strange, but it shows the resilience of the Israeli people. We've been through many things, and we'll get through this too, hopefully. But anyway, last week we had the attack from Iran. It was like a slow motion action movie at 1 a.m. or at midnight, the televisions all announced that there were drones coming towards Israel, and bloggers in Iran and Iraq and Jordan were filming them, and we saw them, and we knew they would land, God forbid, in Israel within an hour or two. And then it was all over. So it's like a surreal movie. But seriously, the problem on the top of most people's minds are the hostages. There are 133 hostages in Gaza. We don't know how many are alive. And I am a bit pessimistic because we have no trump cards left. If I were Yahya Sinwar, I wouldn't go for a deal now, because it seems like just waiting it out is his best deal. The fighting in Gaza is ending. There's lots of pressure on Israel. Humanitarian aid is now coming in. There's no army in northern Gaza. And there's a promise, if the hostages will be released, then we will kill Sinwar. So if I were in his shoes, I unfortunately wouldn't go for a deal right now. So I don't know what can be done, but the outlook is not very optimistic right now. And the war in Gaza, of course, is horrible. We in Israel, we don't see it as, let's say, CNN and television chains and newspapers report from there. Israel doesn't. All the four news channels in Israel don't show what's going on in Gaza, and it is horrible. Al Jazeera is now banned. We used to have that, but I'm subscribed to a provider here, HOT, and Al Jazeera is no longer there. So anyway, it would be important for Israelis also to see what is happening in Gaza, but we don't. So now Israel is delivering humanitarian aid into Gaza, which I think is very important and should have been done from the beginning, because starving the Gaza population won't get Hamas to change their ways. We've seen that they don't care about 30,000 people killed, so they don't care about starvation in Gaza either. So I don't think there are many people who say here we shouldn't let any aid in and force them to release the hostages. Well, I don't think that denying humanitarian aid will force Hamas or Sinwar to release the hostages. Unfortunately, I don't think so. And I think it's very important that humanitarian aid is let in. It should have been done from the beginning. It would have given us more legitimacy. Anyway, now we're doing it. The UN and everybody else says it's not enough, which I'm not quite sure about, because before the war started, there were 750 trucks coming in every day. Now it's about 1/3. But the 750 trucks, they brought consumer goods, building materials, everything, not just food. So 250 trucks daily of food should be actually good, but I don't know the exact numbers. Rafah, the city in southern Gaza, where there are now about 2 million people, that's where Israel thinks that Sinwar and his cronies are hiding, probably or possibly with the hostages. So the question is, does Israel enter Rafah. The Americans have warned Israel it would be an even greater humanitarian catastrophe. Urban fighting is always a problem, with many uninvolved innocent people getting killed, and in Rafah it would be even worse. So Israel was supposed to present some plans of how to evacuate the civilian population in Rafah before they go in. I am split about whether we should go in or not. On the one hand, I think we have to destroy Hamas there, the militants, the terrorists. On the other hand, we can't risk the remaining relationship with the Americans. So it's a problem. We're in a bind. UNRWA, I want to say just a few words. I think they really discredited themselves. It was obvious from the time when I was a journalist that UNRWA was very one-sided. They perpetuated the problem. So I think UNRWA, after the war, it will end its tasks and somebody else will have to take over. The idea I heard being bandied about is that NATO forces would take over humanitarian control in Gaza. It wouldn't be the Americans, it wouldn't be the Palestinian Authority, it certainly shouldn't and wouldn't be, I hope, Israel. So NATO would be a good solution. I don't know where that stands, but that's NATO together with moderate Arab countries take over humanitarian control. And then the administrative control, well, the Americans want the Palestinian Authority. I would like the Palestinian Authority to take over. Our government is dead set against it. And if I have time, I'll talk about why. But anyway, they won't even hear of it. I think the Palestinian Authority may be a rebranded Palestinian Authority, because for the time being, they're very corrupt and ineffective. But Israel did a lot to make them ineffective. But after a while, after the war is over, I hope some authority will take over. And I am afraid that many Hamas people will remain in the administration. And they're, of course, not the terrorists. I mean, but Hamas was the civil administration of the Gaza Strip. There are the medical doctors and garbage disposal police. I think they will have to be rebranded. It's like after the Second World War in Germany, there was a denazification process. So there should be a de-Hamasification process. And yes, it probably won't be perfect, but these are the people who administrated the land for many years. And I think they and ex-UNRWA people will play a role in administrating the Gaza Strip. It should definitely not be Israel. And also there was another idea that influential families, Hamulot, will take over. And that's a stupid idea. I mean, it's like letting crime families take over administration of the Gaza Strip. So I don't think that is a good idea. Then in the north, we have to know there are 70,000 people displaced in Israel for the past 6 months. That's close to 1% of the population. So whenever one speaks about civilians being displaced in the Gaza Strip, lehavdil, 70,000 people are displaced in Israel, of course, under totally different conditions, but they are displaced. They haven't been home, they haven't been working, they haven't gone to school. So that's a problem which the world is not quite aware of. Of course, it's different. Being displaced in Israel and being displaced in Gaza is totally a different ballgame. But it should be remembered that 70,000 people have not been able to function for the past 6 months. The West Bank, there are daily operations in the West Bank. Every day, some Palestinians are killed, teenagers, 16, 17-year-old. Yes, they probably did something through fire bombs, but it's not a solution to shoot, to just go in and shoot. Yeah, I don't know what to say. There's the thing I'm most angry about in the West Bank is when settlers rampage. They burn houses, they kill sheep of the Palestinians. And what's even worse is that the army often stands by. I mean, we have the best army in the world. We can do anything, but we can't arrest settlers who firebomb civilians. This is something which I'm really personally very angry about. Then with Iran, Israel showed last night that it can reach Iran and it can inflict damage. I mean, the Iranians have shown that they can reach Israel, or they can't, but they got as far as the borders, but didn't inflict hardly any damage. So Israel, from foreign reports, because Israel never admitted that they were the ones who attacked Isfahan last night, but it was a big warning to Iran. I think that the Iranians are scared. They have no air defense of their oil installations. They are close to nuclear capability, so that has to be impeded. Not militarily, I think, because the nuclear capabilities are all hidden and underground, very much underground. So I don't know if it is possible to bomb the nuclear facilities. But Israel has shown that they can assassinate the leaders, and they can we can reach Iran. With Iran, I'm sort of a bit not optimistic, but the Iranian people have nothing against Israel. It's an artificial conflict that the mullahs try to sustain in order to keep in power, or Islamic fundamentalists. The people, they are young, I mean, they're not all young, but many young people, they're well educated. They would like to live a normal life, a Western kind of life. I think they'd love Israel. So someday, maybe the regime will be overthrown. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, it was close, and I don't know why the world didn't help the young demonstrators overthrow the regime, but they didn't. But I think the Iranian population would be a better ally to Israel even than the Turks. So I'm hoping one day that will happen. Let me say a word or two about the Haredim, the Orthodox. It's a big internal problem that they do not serve in the army and they get paid for studying. And it may actually create an overthrow of the government. My opinion is that I think the Haredim should not be drafted into the army, into military service, but they should be drafted into civil service. They would be more of a burden to the army than any help. But civil service, they could help in hospitals, in the men-only department. They could teach, they could do many things that need to be done in our country. I don't think they should actually go into the army. They should definitely not have monetary incentives to remain unemployed, because that's what's happening right now. So what do I see coming? What I'm hoping for is that 5 Likudniks will jump ship. The coalition now is 64 people. So if 5 jump ship, there will be new elections. Bibi must, Benjamin Netanyahu must go, and I don't see how he can survive this. One never knows, but I think new elections will bring a moderate right-wing government. I won't go as far as to say a Labour government or a left-wing government, but a moderate right-of-center government with Benny Gantz, Victor Lieberman, Lapid, of course. So that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe in the next half year or so. Benny Gantz said he wants elections in September. That would be good. I'm hoping for a 2-state solution. There must be a Palestinian state. There are millions of Palestinians. They need their own state, like we, the Jews, needed our own state. I want to remind that yesterday at the UN Security Council, America put in their veto against accepting a Palestinian state, and the UK and Switzerland abstained. So your country and my original country, we were the ones to abstain. I hope for as soon as Bibi is gone, the relationship with the USA will become better again. I definitely hope Trump will not be elected, though many of our friends in New York think he's the best thing for Israel that ever happened. I do not think so. I think Trump is pocket anti-Semite. He'd let Israel drop completely. So I hope he won't make it. I'm hoping the Gaza Strip, as I said, an administration by NATO and moderate Arab states. Then once the war is over, a coalition or a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia, like the Abraham Accords. And then I hope for an overthrow in Iran, that the people will manifest and demonstrate like they did and throw out the Islamist government. I'll be happy to try to answer questions.
Thank you so much, George. That was amazing. You did a whole lecture and beginning, a middle, and an end, and so much information during it, touching things that we've touched in past weeks and some that we haven't. So thank you excessively. I didn't mention at the beginning that all of this is about the connection between us, and it's really very important. And so Al Jazeera, I had not realized had been taken out of the equation in Israel, that people weren't, it was being banned. I know they've not been they have not been reporting in the same way they used to, but presumably people in Israel are still watching UK and US news, and so they are hearing some news from outside. Is that correct?
Yes, of course, we are aware and we know that there are 33,000 people killed, but the heart-wrenching pictures we tend not to see. I mean, we watch channel 11, 12, 13, and 14, which is the right-wing channel, and they don't show picture. We have no journalists in the Gaza Strip, except those who are going together with the army. And we don't show pictures of killed children and what's happening. We show rubble, but that's sort of very arm's length. We see rubble, everything was destroyed. We don't see the human suffering. We could, if we wanted to. We can watch CNN and whatever. Al Jazeera, as I said, they're trying to ban it altogether here from reporting from Israel. We're subscribed to HOT, which is a provider who used to have Al Jazeera, and now I can't find it anymore. So if you go out looking for it, you can be informed about what's happening in Gaza, but you have to make an effort.
Yes, and living with your reality is I'm sure, enough. And yeah, absolutely. I hadn't realized that also that Israel had stopped sending in reporters to Gaza. I know there have been photojournalists down there, because they're people I know. Is that for safety reasons or just security?
Well, first of all, nobody from Israel, no Israeli journalists or foreign journalists can go into Gaza without a military escort. That's definitely for security, but also it's chaperoning them. So the Israeli army takes journalists in, shows them the tunnels, shows them the hospital. And so we do get reports, but not the human suffering. That's why we're sort of immune to that, immunized. Yesterday I saw a film on CNN, which was heart-wrenching about, was it CNN or? About a girl who was playing and was killed, and it's horrible. It's horrible, and we're being the Israeli population. You watch your own channels, especially during the war. So we're informed theoretically what's happening in Gaza. We don't see it. We don't see it.
Good to know. And so we've been asked about it was interesting that you said about the 5 Likudniks. I have not been keeping an eye on the numbers. So Michael's asked whether you know whether there are 5 Likudniks that you think might drop out.
Amazingly, no. The Likud now has 33 seats. If there's a new election, they'll get maybe 17. So whoever drops out knows he or she won't be on the list, on the next list. So it's the end of the Knesset, his or her Knesset career. So right now, they're sticking with it. I would have hoped that there are some, but no, those who used to be in the Likud and were skeptical of Netanyahu have left the Likud. Gidon Saar is no longer in. Bibi sort of complimented them out. So in the Likud, no, they're all stuck. They know. I mean, I understand that, but they know if there are new elections, there's a very good chance that exactly those who jumped ship won't be in the next Knesset. So no, right now there are no 5 people.
Interesting idea, but possibly not. We've got to 9:30, so thank you. It always goes so quickly, and I'm so appreciative. Someone wrote that you gave such a good broad overview with so many interesting points. So thank you.
Thank you.
Back at JW3, we have, if you're around, able to get in today to see the empty Seder table, please do. It's open on Sunday as well. The yellow piano has its last day today. We've had some beautiful music being played on that in our reception area. Thank you, George, for connecting us all this morning. It was lovely to have you as our guest, and I hope we re-meet. And do let us know when you're coming over to London, so we can bring
to
you
visit my brother and sister who are in London.
I know, but you must visit at some point.
I will.
So to Helen, yes, we do these briefings every Friday, and that will include next Friday, where we have Gershon Baskin. I decided, even though it was Pesach, we would have one.
I know him. He'll be very interesting.
He will indeed. So do join us there and tell your friends. And I do say this, although we send out a reminder every Thursday, the Zoom link is the same every week. So if you, for some reason, don't get the email, then you can still log on to the same link. Thank you all for joining us. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. I wish you a very happy, meaningful Seder nights and Pesach. And take care, everyone. Stay safe. George, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.